Chapter 411. You don't wish to expose this evidence, right? Lin Che looked at Gu Jingze and smiled. She was my student and also my star pupil. I believed that I created her. I transformed her from that small little girl to an independent and opinionated lady. However, we later lost touch. Even now, I have no idea where she went or how she is now. Gu Jingze narrowed his eyes and looked at Lin Che. Then do you know what's her name? Her name is Su Sen. Gu Jingze was in deep thought. He looked ahead silently. Su Sen. That was. Just then, Lin Che returned from outside. Seeing as the two of them seemed to be in a serious conversation, she asked, "Are you talking about work? I'll go out again." No, we weren't. Come in and sit. Dinner will be ready soon. Come sit for a while and we can eat later. Gu Jingze looked at Lin Che and did not move for a long time. He stared at Lin Che until she felt weird. She looked at Gu Jingze as she ate some grapes. Why do you keep staring at me? Gu Jingze smiled. Because you look good. Can't I look at you? Lin Che blushed. It felt really weird to be complimented by Gu Jingze. Gu Jingze stuffed a grape into her mouth. Eat your grapes. Lin Che watched the interaction between the two of them and thought that this lass was indeed lucky. If only Su Sen could also be as fortunate. Perhaps she was. Su Sen was a good, pretty girl. Perhaps she was in the arms of a man who loved her right now, living an ordinary and blissful life. On the outside, Lin Che was being watched over and was not allowed to go in. Lin Che was furious. She had actually been denied entry into her own home in her father's living room. She could only watch from the outside as Gu Jingze and Lin Che displayed their affection inside. She might as well be killed than to go through this feeling. Thankfully, it wasn't long before Gu Jingze came out. Lin Che looked at Gu Jingze, pursed her lips, and walked to him. Gu Jingze, do you really want to fight me to the death? Gu Jingze looked at Lin Che. I've already put up with you for a long time, but you're only getting out of hand. If you really think the card you have in your hand is enough to threaten me, then you're really underestimating me too much. You, Lin Che said, I'm underestimating you. Jingze, I only want to be with you. What's so bad about being with me? As long as you get together with me, this secret will forever be a secret. Otherwise, you can't touch me or do anything to me, the mistress of the Lu family. But what is Lin Che? She knows your secret and you only need to make this worthless person disappear right now. Shut up. Gu Jingze stared at Lin Che, not wanting to hear anything negative about Lin Che. Not a single person was allowed to do that. Gu Jingze looked at Lin Che. You've also witnessed that your father is very fond of Lin Che. Lin Che did see that and she was enraged. She said hatefully, so what about that? I am still his own daughter. Gu Jingze looked in front indifferently. Very well. I wonder how he would feel if I tell him that his own daughter is actually calculating his assets and relying on men she met outside to transfer assets to an overseas account. Lin Che froze. How did he look into her? You Gu Jingze, what are you talking about? Gu Jingze said, because you're our relative now, so I already discovered the changes in the Lu family a long time ago but I didn't express them out loud. In any case, you're a grandchild of the Lu family and it shouldn't be a big deal for you to use some of the Lu family's money. However, since you've been so aggressive towards me, I'm not sure if I can continue being your relative. Lin Che's heart trembled. She did all these because the family was too strict towards her finances. The Lu family was strict on their children. They were not allowed to squander too much money. In order for her to maintain her #1 position as a socialite and because she was always spending a lot of money, she had no choice but to use this method. She found many men who could help her transfer some money out. She didn't expect Gu Jingze to actually find out about this now. Lin Che's eyes shifted and she looked at Gu Jingze. Do you think that I'd be afraid of you saying it out loud? This is nothing compared to that secret of yours. Gu Jingze said, it is nothing, but if people knew that the top socialite used her charms to seduce men and win their favor by sleeping with them, I believe your reputation will be ruined. Lin Che was instantly stunned. Gu Jingze actually knew about this too. Lin Che bit her lip as her mind blanked out. Gu Jingze's calmness over the past few days made her think that he had already subjected himself to her. Was he actually investigating her all this time in the dark? Gu Jingze was indeed scary. He did things so inconspicuously and she could never tell from his face that he was doing all these in the dark. Lu Chusha's face was dismal. She could only lean against the wall to support her own body. She thought about how he actually knew about all her disgraceful acts. However, all this didn't matter. She was still the top socialite. She clenched her fists, looked up, and said to Gu Jingze, "But you can't tell anyone either. We both have our own secrets. You can't say it out loud, and if you make me unhappy, I can also choose to fight you to the death. You can't make me unhappy. Otherwise, we will all go down together." Gu Jingze scoffed and said, "Why would I make you unhappy? No matter what, we are still relatives. I won't make you unhappy. You can rest assured." How could she rest assured? Looking at Gu Jingze, she was angry and depressed. However, she could only look at him. Gu Jingze very quickly went in. Lu Chusha stood there. She felt tragically painful. Nobody could understand how much effort she had to put in to maintain her position as the #1 socialite. Now, she was actually attacked by this Lin Che. What right did Lin Che have? Lu Chusha saw Lin Che and Gu Jingze coming out together. Lu Qinyu looked extremely happy at the side. When he talked to Lin Che, he really didn't look like Lu Qinyu at all. Since when was her father so amiable to others? Lu Chusha wanted to use the hard-kept secret to capture Gu Jingze. In the end, she didn't get anything at all. What she felt in her heart now was really indescribable. Her feelings were complex and there were all kinds of feelings. In a fit of anger, Lu Chusha went to them. When Lin Che was about to leave, Lu Chusha immediately pushed her aside without saying anything. After knocking Lin Che, she grunted angrily and walked in. Chapter 412. News of Madam President was announced. Lu Qinyu was furious and called her back. "Chusha, come back here." Lu Chusha stood her ground. "For what?" Lu Qinyu said, "Come back and apologize to Lin Che." Lu Chusha turned her head and gritted her teeth at Lin Che. She also noticed Gu Jingze standing behind her, silently looking at her. Those cold eyes seemed like they were reiterating their previous conversation. Lu Chusha laughed coldly. "Father, since you like Lin Che so much and you treat her like your own, why not just make her your daughter?" Lu Qinyu's expression was firm. He slammed the table angrily. "What nonsense are you talking about?" Lu Chusha lifted her head. "Am I wrong to say that?" Lu Qinyu looked at Gu Jingze and Lin Che. Then, he pointed at Lu Chusha and said, "Go inside and reflect on your actions. I'm taking away all of your allowance. You're going to stay at home obediently, so don't think about going anywhere else." Lu Chusha stomped her feet. She knew that there wouldn't be any good from creating a scene like this. She only glared at Lin Che and quickly walked in, squeezing with the maids who were walking in the opposite direction. Lu Qinyu shook his head and said to the two of them, "We have really spoiled this brat. I hope you don't mind." Gu Jingze smiled and said, "Not at all. It's because you treated us so well that it made her jealous." Lu Qinyu really thought how nice it would be if he had a daughter like Lin Che. She was obedient, understanding, and amiable. In the car, Lin Che looked at Gu Jingze and asked, "Was there any problems today?" "It's already settled," Gu Jingze said. Lin Che looked at him strangely. "Is it completely settled? What about that?" "It's already solved. Alright, you don't need to worry about this becoming a threat to me anymore." It was solved that easily. Lin Che thought that Gu Jingze was a little too capable. He could simply solve it like that. It looked like she worried for nothing. Gu Jingze was such a strong and tyrannical person. How could he allow this to be a threat to him? Through the years, he had experienced plenty of threats and scares and each one of them were handled by himself. She simply worried too much. Gu Jingze seemed unfazed, but this made Lin Che feel that he was really all the more capable. Gu Jingze looked at Lin Che. "Right, I've never heard you mention what your mother's name was." "Her name was Su Sen," Lin Che said. Gu Jingze froze. It turned out that Lu Qinyu had such a history with Lin Che's mother. No wonder he was so fond of Lin Che. Lin Che looked up. "Why did you suddenly ask?" Nothing. I was just asking, Gu Jingze replied. Lin Che's filming schedule was getting tighter and tighter. She couldn't bother with anything else in the following few days as she nervously filmed every day. While on this day, the long-awaited president's wedding conference finally began. The conference was split into two parts. One was a public conference and the other was a glazed tile palace conference. One was more relaxed and casual than the other. The glazed tile palace's spokesperson announced that the official wedding date would be on the 16th of the next month. The future wife of Gu Jingming, who will also be C Nation's Madam President, is Yu Minmin, aged 26. During the public conference, they introduced the Madam President. They said that Yu Minmin didn't have any special background or status and was just an ordinary citizen. The two of them met by chance along the corridor of a hotel and it was love at first sight. They secretly dated because the girl liked to keep a low profile. Thus, they never announced it. Today, Miss Yu chose to reveal herself for the sake of love, so that she could properly become Gu Jingming's wife. Their wedding was going to be held at the glazed tile palace. They had requested for it to be more humble and not too extravagant. When the news was out, the entire world was shaken. C Nation's president's wedding was also considered very interesting news, and since he was marrying a commoner girl, it made everybody sigh. Even if Gu Jingming wasn't the president, he was also a member of the Gu family. He could marry any kind of girl, but he didn't. The Cinderella Yu Minmin was immediately searched. Her looks, old photos, and every single bit of her history were all dished out. Of course, the reports at this time were also selectively chosen by the glazed tile palace. The media dared not to expose some information that wasn't allowed and those that could be exposed but already picked out as news. Immediately, Yu Minmin's name instantly became a hot topic. Aside from other circles, the entertainment circle was also stirred up. After all, Yu Minmin was an agent in this circle. She was never a very outstanding agent and she only had one Lin Che who reached a high level of stardom. However, she still had some placing throughout these years. Even Lin Che, who was on set, was already asked if it was true that Yu Minmin was going to be the president's wife. Lin Che could only smile and say that it was definitely true. Everybody was extremely jealous. They talked among themselves, wondering how Yu Minmin could end up with Mr. President. How come they never knew that Yu Minmin knew Mr. President? Yu Minmin was normally so poor and apparently, her family circumstances were particularly bad. Now, she was actually going to become Madam President. This was really too lucky. Yu Minmin knew that when the news was announced, her life would definitely be turned upside down. Actually, from the moment she got entangled with Gu Jingming, she already couldn't escape from this change. The news had already been filtered, so naturally, everything said about Yu Minmin was good. They rendered Yu Minmin's image as an ordinary citizen as much as possible. However, there was a lot of commotion online and it could not be stopped. Yu Minmin quickly saw that some of the president's fans had gathered together and voiced out their unhappiness in Mr. President marrying such a wife. They insulted Yu Minmin constantly, saying that she was ugly, average, and looked poor. She didn't fit to be with their high and mighty Mr. President. But some others thought that it was very good that Gu Jingming liked an ordinary girl like Yu Minmin. He suited the image that a president should have, not caring about background or looks and only caring about love. They were also extremely surprised and envious, thinking that Yu Minmin was such a normal girl. But it was too enviable that she was able to have a relationship with Mr. President. But looking at Yu Minmin, they thought that it was simply too inspirational. She must have saved the universe in her past life since she had the opportunity to marry a man like Gu Jingming. It was really pleasing to watch a citizen jump to become Madam President. Yu Minmin looked at the insults above. Look at those thick legs of hers. Why are they so ugly? And those legs are bow-legged. This must be some plot. It's a political conspiracy. Mr. President must have some other reason to marry her. How else could he ever take a liking to such a woman? Yu Minmin shook her head speechlessly, thinking that these people were rather logical. Chapter 413, The air on top is different. Gu Jingming was indeed marrying her because of political reasons and to protect his image. But since when was she bow-legged? Yu Minmin looked speechlessly at the glazed tile palace attendants. Are my legs very thick? The attendant stuttered, "Miss Yu, you're very pretty and slim. Your legs are also very nice. Those people are talking nonsense. It's better if you don't look at all these comments anymore." Yu Minmin said, "Forget it. Never mind. I've been working menial jobs and have been in the eyes of the public for years. I have seen every nasty comment there is." But in all these years, the comments she saw were always about other people. Who would have thought that it would be her turn now to be insulted? This feeling was truly very weird. Yu Minmin's phone rang again. It had rung endlessly today. Her phone had been ringing non-stop and she never picked it up. Once again, she muted her phone and sighed, hoping that this day would pass quickly. At night, Yu Minmin was protected and sent home in the dark. Her mother knew about this news from the TV and must have been very shocked. Yu Minmin told her mother that she was already going to be engaged. Her mother hoped that she would bring her boyfriend back home first. Her mother trusted her choice and she was free to decide her engagement, but it was better to bring him back home if she could. Yu Minmin thought, bring Gu Jingming back for my mother to see. No way would Gu Jingming go to her house. He was so busy daily that she didn't even see him often in glazed tile palace. How would he be able to step into that dilapidated house of hers? Yu Minmin returned home and saw her mother rush out to her. She held Yu Minmin's hand and had a stunned expression. She was so shaken that it could even be felt in her surprised voice. "Minmin, what is going on? So many reporters came by this afternoon and said that you're going to be Madam President. What is going on with that? Since when were you going to be Madam President? So many of our relatives also called up and I told them that I wasn't aware of it either." "Mom, this is all true. When our relatives ask again, just tell them that you don't know." "Really, you're marrying Mr. President?" "That's right." "Oh my God, how come? Why you said that you were going to be engaged? The other party is Mr. President." "That's right." "Then your father was right. You're really with Mr. President." Thinking about her father still gave Yu Minmin headache. "Mom, this matter is too complicated and we can't run around spouting nonsense outside. Otherwise, we'll be locked up just like Dad." Oh, I understand. I'll shut up and stop talking." Yu Minmin looked out from inside. She could still see many reporters loitering outside and downstairs. However, the president's guards were protecting the area and didn't allow reporters to come close. Meanwhile, curious neighbors were around peering into the windows. Although she did expect there to be some commotion after the announcement, she didn't expect the commotion to be so huge. It looked like matters regarding Mr. President's marriage were of great interest to people. Some neighbors seemed to be at the door but were blocked by the guards stationed there. Yu Minmin and her mother could even hear their conversation from the inside. "We can't enter here. We've been old neighbors for more than a decade. We watched her grow up. Oh my, it seems like she's really Madam President now. Seriously." Just then, someone came in, looked around, and asked, "What are you guys doing outside my house?" It was her brother. Yu Minmin quickly opened the door. She looked at her brother's ignorant expression and quickly said, "This is my brother. He can enter." Her brother entered and looked at Yu Minmin in shock. He asked her, "Sis, what is going on? Why is everybody saying that you're going to be Madam President? My teacher even called me to her office and questioned me." Yu Minmin speechlessly rested her forehead on her palm. Her brother was still stunned. He looked at her and asked, "Sis, is it really true? Those very capable-looking people that day, were they the president's people?" Yu Minmin's silent admittance made her brother very happy. "Wow, sis, this is so cool. Are those guards outside super strong?" Yu Minmin said, "That's enough. Don't cause a scene outside. I'm just here to pack some things up and to tell you guys to ignore the many reporters that will be here. These personal guards outside will be here during this period. You'll get used to it." Her mother still said, "If your dad knows about it, he will definitely be thrilled. Why don't you?" "Enough, Mom, don't say a word about this to Dad." Her mother looked at her in surprise. "Why? It's your marriage, why can't?" "So what if we tell Dad? It's better if he stays in there obediently." "Hey, you're going to marry Mr. President now. Can't we have your dad let out first?" "No, it's safer if he's inside," Yu Minmin replied and opened the door to her room. Minmin, you." Yu Minmin thought that it was already messy enough right now. If they let that gambling addict father of hers out, wouldn't that be apocalyptic? Lin Che put the last hand to her parts of the film. Many reporters were waiting outside, wanting to capture her last scene. The director also allowed a select few to enter and take photos. This was to create a bit of news and hype for the movie. Plenty of fans were also waiting outside. When Lin Che finished the final shot of her last scene, everybody congratulated Lin Che. Lin Che was still in her stage clothes. It looked ethereal and graceful and everybody thought that she looked very pretty. Lin Che, well done. You did great. Lin Che, you're amazing. Congrats on your final scene. Lin Che got up and thanked everybody. Seeing the reporters and fans coming up to her, she also quickly thanked them. The final take this time was smooth. Following this were the promotion dates. Lin Che knew that she was going to be busy for a long period. A reporter asked Lin Che, "How do you feel to act with Gu Jingze again?" "I am especially thankful for Gu Jingze who was always giving me directions during filming. It's my first time filming in such an important movie, so I felt very pressured. I'm also very happy to be able to learn from so many experienced actors." The director also sang praises about Lin Che. He said that when she first came to film, there were indeed some areas that she was inexperienced in. However, after this period of shaping, her acting skills really grew rapidly. The reporters inevitably made comparisons between her and Qin Wanwan again. Lin Che was focused on filming during this period and her exposure went down a lot. At the same time, Qin Wanwan appeared on the covers again. First, she was in a controversial relationship with a wealthy second generation. Then, they broke up for good. Later, she brought out evidence that the guy was two-timing and gained sympathy. Her number of fans increased greatly. After that, there were rumors about her and a famous director. When the rumor was dispelled, she took up an extremely expensive endorsement. Now, she had signed up to study acting again at a drama school, gaining even more attention. In comparison, news related to Lin Che had decreased. After that dispute with Shin Xiaoyuan, she practically never appeared again. At this moment, the reporter asked, "We heard that your manager, Miss Yu Minmin, is going to become Madam President. Are you aware of this?" Chapter 414, Seeing Someone He Shouldn't See. Lin Che could only say, "I'm very happy for her." "Did she also keep her relationship with Mr. President hidden from you?" "I knew about it a little earlier than you guys. However, I was indeed aware when they knew each other. I just didn't expect it to be love at first sight back then." The reporters still wanted to ask questions but were blocked off by the crew's security. The director also said, "Forget it. Don't ask about those personal questions anymore. The main topic is the movie today." Lin Che finally managed to slip away from the reporters. Outside, a group of fans was already running over in a frenzy. However, what was unexpected was that some of the president's fans were among the horde. Upon finding out that Yu Minmin was Lin Che's manager, they took the chance to come to look for Lin Che. They yelled outside, "Lin Che, tell Yu Minmin that she's not fit to be with our Mr. President. Seriously, just go be an average actress. So shameless." Lin Che's fans heard this and were enraged. They immediately rebutted these people. "Who are you calling average? Who is the shameless one here? Our Lin Che didn't provoke you guys and yet you're loitering around here. You're the shameless ones. What's wrong with being a manager? Is a manager not a legitimate job? What's wrong with being an actor? Actors enrich our free time so that our lives are more exciting. It's also an art. Are you cultured enough to understand art?" Exactly. Just take a good look in the mirror if you're going to insult others. Mr. President will never take a liking to you in his life. If she isn't a match for Mr. President, are you a match? Lin Che quickly yelled, "That's enough. Stop arguing. Yu Minmin was my manager and it's not up to you to decide whether she is fit or not. It is up to Yu Minmin herself. Why don't you guys think about it? If you're going to marry a guy and others tell you that you don't match, does that mean you're not going to marry him? Yu Minmin believes that she is fit for Mr. President, so she is going to marry him. And all those who think that she isn't are still protesting outside. I only want to say that a woman can be a match for any man unless the woman doesn't feel that way herself. Furthermore, since when was it up to other people to determine whether one is a fit or not? This domineering outburst instantly stunned everybody. Lin Che's fans applauded her while others seemed to have ashen faces. Lin Che got into the car and Yang Lingxin said, "Sister Che, you're so capable. You were so intimidating just now." Lin Che said, "I felt that they went overboard. What do they mean by saying that Yu Minmin is not fit? This matter is not as simple as they thought at all." Yang Lingxin said, "But we are all very puzzled. Nobody knows how Yu Minmin and Mr. President ended up together, and this news was way too sudden. Everybody has been talking about it, saying that she really became Cinderella." Of course, everyone also said that Lin Che would be pulled into the spotlight too. But Lin Che didn't know why she would be pulled into the spotlight. At least the news should also be temporary. Now that there was so much information, it wouldn't be long before the attention on Yu Minmin would be turned to something else. At this moment, Gu Jingze was also ready to pick up Lin Che and take her out to eat. When they moved back to the Gu house, Lin Che and Gu Jingze were both so busy that they haven't eaten together in a long time. Gu Jingze mentioned earlier that he wanted to celebrate Lin Che's final scene. Lin Che immediately and happily agreed. Gu Jingze said, "I'll see you at the place." Okay, Lin Che replied happily over the phone. Gu Jingze put down his phone and said to Qin Hao, "We'll pick up Lin Che in a bit." "Yes, sir." Just then, Gu Jingze caught a glimpse of a familiar shadow flashing by. Mo Hilling. Gu Jingze realized that it has been a long time since he last saw Mo Hilling. Qin Hao also already saw her. After all, Mo Hilling had a close relationship with Gu Jingze. Thus, he was also very familiar with Mo Hilling's image. "Hey, sir, that looks like Miss Mo." Mo Hilling walked straight into a hospital. Qin Hao was even more surprised. Why would Miss Mo enter the hospital? Gu Jingze was also puzzled. He looked around and said, "Never mind. Anything about her already has nothing to do with us." "Yes, sir." After the last scene at night, the director wanted to treat Lin Che to a meal. However, Lin Che turned him down. She already made a promise with Gu Jingze, so she came to meet Gu Jingze. Gu Jingze saw Lin Che and smiled. He took her to change out of her clothes. Lin Che asked, "You're not taking me to some banquet again, are you?" When he said that he wanted to treat her, she thought that it would only be the two of them. Gu Jingze smiled mysteriously and said to her, "You'll know once we get there." As his wife, it was only right to accompany him to banquets, work trips and entertain clients. However, she still felt disappointed today. Perhaps it was because she was really looking forward to having a meal with him alone. She withdrew her feelings and thought, "Never mind. It doesn't matter if we're going to a banquet. I'll also get to eat." Very quickly, she changed into a new set of clothes and hopped into the car with Gu Jingze. They reached the outside of a hotel. Lin Che went up with him, feeling that something was not right as she walked. There didn't seem to be a banquet going on. Why was there not a single soul in sight? These banquets were usually very lively. Even if the guests already went in, there would still be attendants and chauffeurs from the various families. Otherwise, there would be some reporters loitering around and trying to take some photos. However, none of these people were here today. Lin Che looked at Gu Jingze curiously. "There is nobody here at all. Where is everyone?" Gu Jingze continued to smile mysteriously. "You'll know once we get to the top." Lin Che and Gu Jingze soon went in. Attendants opened the door for them and inside was a round table. An empty restaurant. Glazed lights glowed above their heads, making the place extremely dim and charming. Lin Che froze. This isn't a banquet." "It is a banquet." He took her hand. "Our banquet." He booked the entire restaurant to eat with her. This was too extravagant. Gu Jingze laughed and took her in. Just then, an exquisite table was pushed to the middle. It was a beautiful candle-lit dinner that was super romantic. He tugged Lin Che along and brought her to the side of the table. She looked at Gu Jingze, feeling the girly side of her being extremely satisfied. She looked at Gu Jingze. "Why did you go to such lengths?" To celebrate your last scene, Gu Jingze enjoyed seeing Lin Che reveal that girly expression of hers. She looked beyond ecstatic. Gu Jingze snapped a finger. popped open a champagne bottle, and filled 2 glasses. Chapter 415. The happy little woman is envied by others. Gu Jingze snapped a finger, popped open a champagne bottle and filled 2 glasses. When that yellow liquid bubbled and fizzed, the sound of violin rang in the surroundings. Lin Che thought that this was a scene straight out from a movie. He made it way too grand. Watching the violinist play and approach them, Lin Che covered her mouth and said, so handsome. Gu Jingze's expression sank and immediately shot a look at the violinist. Before the violinist got any closer, he was already slowly retreating and continued playing from the outside. Lin Che looked around in a daze and said, what kind of violinist is this? Why isn't he coming around us to play the violin? That's how it always goes in shows. Gu Jingze couldn't be bothered to answer her. He raised his glass and said to her, congratulations on your last scene. Thank you. Lin Che was very happy and also didn't want to think so much. She raised her glass and their glasses clinked. The champagne was sweet, but it still contained alcohol and the aftertaste was strong. It was not long before Lin Che already felt herself becoming lightheaded. Her face was already red. Gu Jingze then held Lin Che's hand. Where are we going? Lin Che still asked in surprise. Gu Jingze pulled her along and walked towards the window. The circular restaurant was surrounded by floor-to-ceiling windows. The view of the city below looked even wider. Gu Jingze held her shoulders, slowly walked behind her, and warmly hugged her. Lin Che said, wow, the view here is really not bad. Gu Jingze didn't say a word and stared at her. After a while, he suddenly said, look over there. Lin Che asked, where? But without needing further questions, a huge screen on the opposite side suddenly revealed Lin Che's image. They were the official photos from Lin Che's current film set. They were all from her scenes. There were crying ones, laughing ones, suave ones, and pretty ones. Lin Che was dazzled. She looked at Gu Jingze in surprise. What was he doing? This was the first time Lin Che felt so valued. She felt very touched. She turned her head to look at Gu Jingze. You seriously, Gu Jingze, why did you do all these? Gu Jingze's dark eyes looked at her, to celebrate for you. Lin Che didn't know what else to say. She could only raise her head and look up at Gu Jingze. Standing on tiptoes, she looked at him, thank you. Then, she pressed her lips against his. Gu Jingze froze for a second. In the next moment, he reversed their position and pressed her against the glass. If you're thankful, a word of thanks is not enough. Lin Che blushed, you what else do you want? Gu Jingze smiled captivatingly, what do you think? The people below saw Lin Che's pictures on the big screen and were astonished. This was the biggest screen in B City. It was 30 floors high and was in the most prime location. This huge screen could be seen clearly from far away and was considered a landmark building in B City. Usually, it was always some advertisement or announcement. Today, someone specially put images of Lin Che up there. This was simply playing God. Some people said that this was someone professing their love to Lin Che. A wealthy person bought it to celebrate Lin Che's last scene in her latest movie, so there was this screen. On this night, the advertisement played throughout the night. There were rumors of how much it cost for a minute of screen time. Nobody could calculate how much this rich person spent for the night. The majority of people thought that this was way too romantic. Lin Che was really lucky to be treated this way by a man. She must have been very happy. The next day, this got onto the news, saying that someone spent a huge sum of money to rent the ad space and celebrate Lin Che's last scene. Lin Che read the fans' comments and dried her hair. After that, she prepared to head to the office. Gu Jingze entered from behind, glanced at Lin Che, and said, come on. I'll take you to work. Yeah, okay, let's go. In the car, Gu Jingze was already looking at some documents while Lin Che read her script. At this moment, Gu Jingze's phone rang. He looked down to see that it was Chin Hao. Chin Hao said, Sir, we found out that Miss Mo went to a maternity hospital. Gu Jingze looked at Lin Che at the side and said, okay, we'll talk about this at the office. The car stopped and Lin Che smiled at him, I'm going then. Okay. Lin Che thought that Gu Jingze's expression didn't look good. However, she still smiled at him and went in. Upon entering the building, Yang Lingxin saw the car outside and received Lin Che. She asked, "Did President Gu send Sister Che here?" "Yes. President Gu is truly so good to you." "Oh right, I saw the news saying that President Gu rented that huge screen to celebrate your last scene. Is that true?" The report didn't say who it was, but I just knew it must be President Gu. He is really so generous to you." However, at this moment, she heard someone call out, "Hey, Lin Che." Lin Che turned around to see that Qin Wanwan was here. Lin Che smiled and walked towards her. "How come you're here?" "I came to sign the contract. I've terminated the contract with my previous company and I'm going to be in the same company as you." The few of them were stunned. Qin Wanwan was signing a contract with their company. Qin Wanwan said, "We can hang out in the future. This is going to be great." Lin Che said, "Oh, yes." As predicted, news already came out in the afternoon saying that Qin Wanwan signed with a new company. The company's boss was very fond of Qin Wanwan and prepared a contract for Qin Wanwan worth more than 1 billion yuan. This was dedicated to creating an image of a goddess for Qin Wanwan and holding her as the new goddess. Some netizens were already beginning to question this. Qin Wanwan kept being compared with Lin Che and now, both of them were in the same company. In the future wouldn't they become the new Song Shuai and Xin Shaoyuan and have many years of rivalry? Of course, it was actually not a bad thing to be like Xin Shaoyuan and Song Shuai. They competed for so many years and were famous for equally many years. But Lin Che and Qin Wanwan were both still newcomers. It was not for certain if they could be popular for that long. Meanwhile, in the company. To appease Lin Che, the company immediately sent some people to prevent Lin Che from really thinking too much of this matter. The company's manager Chen he said, "Lin Che, don't worry. We only said that because we are only creating an image for her. However, you know our company's ability. We cannot only groom her alone. You are the one who we raised up while she only came here after she got famous. It is different and you are the most important one in our hearts." Lin Che smiled and said, "Director Chen, injecting new blood and making the most out of celebrities are just smart business decisions. I am aware of that and you don't have to explain it to me. No matter what, everyone still relies on their own abilities." Chapter 416, Qin Wanwan actually signed a contract here. That's right, Little Che, you are always particularly understanding, far more than other actors. You don't know how afraid I am of those who aren't understanding. They'll create chaos and affect the movement of our company. It's great that you think this way. After the manager left, Yang Lingxin then said, "I believe that Sister Che is definitely more capable than Qin Wanwan, but the company actually said that they want to help Qin Wanwan become some goddess. If she's a goddess, what does that make Sister Che?" Lin Che said, "That's just a gimmick. At the end of the day, it still depends on our hard work. Who doesn't want to be at the top? A soldier who doesn't want to become general is not a good soldier. I also want to be at the top, but I won't push away competition either. I can accept any rivalry as long as it is legitimate." Yang Lingxin pouted, "Okay then. I just feel unjust for Sister Che. If only Sister Yu was still here. She definitely wouldn't have let the company bully Sister Che. Otherwise, Sister Che can tell President Gu. President Gu wouldn't let the company treat you this way too." Lin Che said, "There is no bullying going on. Don't tell me that the company can only groom me alone. Forget it. This is such a huge management company and there are plenty of artists." However, with Qin Wanwan's arrival, some of Lin Che's resources were inevitably going to be snatched by her. After all, a company's cooperative resources were indeed limited. She had a phone call with Yu Minmin in the afternoon. Yu Minmin said, "That is natural. However, the company is really not making a smart move. If you were different types, it would be alright. However, you two are the same type and they even poached her. I'm guessing that the company wants to make use of you two and stir up some commotion together. This tactic is really very detrimental, but it can indeed save a lot of publicity." Lin Che sighed and asked Yu Minmin, "It seems like the news has died down a bit over the past few days. Have you adjusted?" "Yes, it's a lot better now. It's already pretty much nothing. Nobody finds it shocking after a while. It is indeed too surprising for people to know about it now and they can't take it for the time being. They'll come to terms with it sooner or later. All right then, see you, Madam President. I'll be retreating. Please, go ahead, I'll be sending you off from here. Both of them burst into laughter, thinking that they were being too ridiculous. In the afternoon, the company looked up Lin Che again and said to her, Qin Wanwan recently signed up for a class at the drama school. Many celebrities are going there as well. What do you think about going too? Take it as a drama school activity. The teachers are all veterans and interacting with them will be beneficial to your image. Lin Che said, okay, I'll ask Sister Yu. She called Yu Minmin again. Yu Minmin said, go ahead. It's actually impossible to not go either. The company has already made the decision and if you were to say no, they'll find some other excuse to make you go. Don't waste your time. This also confirmed what Yu Minmin said previously. Ultimately, they wanted to create some hype with her and Qin Wanwan. Lin Che agreed to it and the company immediately helped to sign her up. After that, she met Qin Wanwan who just came out from her contract signing ceremony. She looked at Lin Che and said, Lin Che, I heard Director Zhang say that you're also going to drama school. Lin Che replied, yeah, the company arranged it. That's great. I heard that I have to stay in school for a while and I was worried that I wouldn't know anyone. I wouldn't have known what to do about that. Lin Che laughed and said, I only just knew about it this afternoon. I hope everything will go smoothly. I'm going to prepare some stuff. Okay, oh right, your movie is going to be released soon. Break a leg. Yes, don't you have a movie releasing soon too? Let's break a leg together. Lin Che said this and left. Qin Wanwan watched Lin Che leave. Her crew member behind, Little He, glared at the side and said to Qin Wanwan, Humph, I wonder if she's doing this on purpose. When we participate in a training program, she also participates. We only just got here and she's already fighting for resources with us. Qin Wanwan said, forget it. We are the ones who came here competing for resources. It's already good that she's not angry with us. Little He said, we have the ability to compete for the resources. That's why we're here. We were poached by their company at such a high cost and the company already said that they want to make Sister Wanwan the top goddess. What is Lin Che to them? Sister Wanwan, your ability is apparent while she only made it up through hype. She's completely different from us. What is she without Gu Jingze? Qin Wanwan replied, enough, Little He. Don't spout nonsense. Although she was stopping Little He on the surface, she still turned back and looked in Lin Che's direction. Her expression did not seem to have an intent of stopping Little He. Very soon after, Yu Minmin attended a public banquet with Gu Jingming for the first time. The purpose of this trip was to meet her future mother-in-law. Remembering that Lin Che once mentioned that this mother-in-law was very nice, she felt much more relaxed. However, it was her first time attending such an important event. Thus, she was still somewhat worried. Gu Jingming sat at the side, still aloof and silent. Yu Minmin wore very proper clothes and she felt so wrapped up that she couldn't really breathe. The moment they entered, she saw that most of the important government officials were present. The military ones wore their military uniforms while the non-military ones did not. Yu Minmin felt as if she was watching a news feed. Those who were especially formal in TV conferences that she usually saw were now all alive and breathing in front of her very eyes. Yu Minmin couldn't help but feel nervous. She took deep breaths. The man beside her glanced coldly at her, be quiet. Yu Minmin pouted, I'm nervous. Gu Jingming glanced at her, you'll get used to it slowly. But I'm feeling overwhelmed. Yu Minmin felt too stuffy in her chest. Gu Jingming remained expressionless, then take a deep breath. But otherwise, I'm not going to rescue you if you embarrass yourself. Yu Minmin stared daggers at him and then followed Gu Jingming, seriously pervert, devil, cold, emotionless. Gu Jingming heard her mumbling but couldn't pick out the words, what did you say? Yu Minmin smiled, nothing. I said you're really handsome and suave. Gu Jingming lowered his head and looked at her. Yu Minmin felt very happy to have finished scolding him. She beamed as she looked in front of her and hummed a tune. Just then, someone yelled out, hey, Mr. President is finally here. Yu Minmin looked over like a deer in headlights. It was Mr. President's group of good friends. Yu Minmin had heard about them. These friends were a general's son and an electronics king's son. The three of them had a close relationship and went to school together. Until today, they were still as close as brothers and nobody could surpass that. They immediately saw Yu Minmin. And this must be the future Madam President. The general's son, Fang Zongmu, was extremely tall, suave, and carried a cheeky grin on his face. Chapter 417. Having competition is a good thing. Not bad, Jingming. This is your first time bringing her here to meet us. You hit her well, Shu Yi chuckled and said at the other side. They seemed to look down on Yu Minmin. Their eyes were only filled with curiosity as they checked her out. Gu Jingming's face remained cool. That's enough. Let's go. He obviously didn't speak as much as those two. He looked at Yu Minmin. Go grab some food first. Yu Minmin could only agree and nod her head. Gu Jingming walked away with his long legs. The two of them smirked again and sized up Yu Minmin. See you later, Madam President. Bye-bye, Madam President. Yu Minmin scoffed. These friends were all equally devilish. Shu Yi caught up with Gu Jingming. Jingming, she has a great figure. Yeah, how is it? Have you enjoyed it? Hee, Fang Zongmu chimed in. Gu Jingming looked at both of them. You have dirty minds. He reached out and smacked Shu Yi's head. Hey, you can't be serious. Nothing happened while you were in Glazed Tile Palace for so many days. Really, Mr. President, you're being too abstinent. They laughed and joked around like any ordinary group of friends. The people surrounding them quickly made way for them, not daring to get too close to the group. Just then. Hey, Yin Suya, Shu Yi quickly nudged Gu Jingming. Gu Jingming's eyes sank. When he looked up, he saw a woman standing there wearing a long dress. Her petite face carried a cultured expression. When she saw Gu Jingming, she smiled but appeared sad. They went quiet. After some time, Shu Yi then said, Hey, Suya, you're here. Zongmu, let's go over there. He reached out and pulled Fang Zongmu with him, leaving only Gu Jingming to look quietly at Yin Suya with his hands in his pocket. In the distance, Yu Minmin was bored, feeling unhappy that she was dumped here. Especially when she looked at those political dignitaries, each one was getting more familiar than the previous. Still, she couldn't call them by name. She felt so out of place here. Was she attending this banquet or was she watching a news feed? She was surrounded by presidential guards who were silently keeping watch by her side. Although the outsiders were filled with curiosity for this newly crowned Madam President, they didn't dare to go nearer and could only look at her from afar. Wow, is Mr. President standing together with Miss Yin? Yes. Yu Minmin froze. She raised her head and swept around the area. She immediately saw Gu Jingming standing tall at the front with a woman. Facing each other, the two of them were gazing at each other. She couldn't tell what they were talking about from their expressions. However, they looked like an unrivaled match when they were together. Just then, people were talking among themselves. Miss Yin seems to be in a rather good relationship with Mr. President and his group of friends. Yes, they always hung out together. Miss Yin originally wasn't a part of this circle. She was later introduced by Mr. President. Then she and Mr. President are really. That's what is being said, but now, it seems like there was nothing going on between them. I heard that she was the one who dumped Mr. President and wasn't willing to become Madam President. So. No way, she dumped Mr. President. Why? Because there are too many restrictions as Madam President. She couldn't continue with her career. She's a designer and she needs to go on work trips abroad. She couldn't be the woman who would always be by Gu Jingming's side. I see. Yu Minmin stood there as she heard their conversation. She looked up again in that direction. The image of the two of them had already disappeared. Gu Jingming was nowhere to be seen, leaving only that woman standing there and looking down. Yu Minmin immediately remembered who she was. Yin Suya was a new wedding gown designer and was very famous for a period of time. She was the younger wedding gown designer at Paris Fashion Week and was also the first female designer in C Nation who made it internationally. No wonder she looked so elegant. Yu Minmin knew that she was merely a wallflower in Glazed Tile Palace. However, this was the path that she had to take. She had no choice. Gu Jingming returned once again and she followed him. Gu Jingming looked at her. Let's go. My mother is already inside waiting for us. Yu Minmin looked up at Gu Jingming and took a deep breath. Her mind was still filled with thoughts about that woman, but she smiled and nodded. She was still feeling nervous about meeting Mu Wanqing for the first time. But Mu Wanqing was clearly very easy to get along with. Looking at Yu Minmin, she chatted with her and even said, it must definitely be tiring to be with Jingming. It's definitely not easy to be Madam President, especially with Jingming, that child. He's too aloof and doesn't know how to care for others. If you have any concerns, just come to me. In the future, you'll be the Gu family's daughter-in-law. I will always stand by your side. Yu Minmin smiled and nodded and then looked at Gu Jingming across her. Humph, he was indeed very aloof. When they left after the banquet, the personal guards looked around. Outside, there were many girls spectating from a distance. They were not allowed to enter and could only watch in adoration outside. But Gu Jingming only looked ahead, not turning to look at his surroundings. He got into the car under the protection of his guards. When they reached Glazed Tile Palace, Gu Jingming then said to Yu Minmin, if your family is willing, they can come to attend the ceremony in a few days. Oh, my dad is still locked up, so just leave him there. He can come out when nobody is talking about him anymore. Otherwise, he might cause trouble again. If my mom and brother can come. Gu Jingming nodded. Of course, they can come. Really? That's great. Thank you. Gu Jingming looked at her and then got out of the car. Yu Minmin quickly called her mother and told her that they could come and to get ready for the upcoming ceremony. Her brother immediately took over the phone and said, really, sis? That's so cool. Can I go to Glazed Tile Palace? The ceremony will be held at Glazed Tile Palace. Of course, you can come. That's great. Her mother took the phone again and said, but how long are those people going to be outside the house for? The neighbors are all watching and they sometimes ask me what's going on. Her brother heard this and said, sis, don't make them leave. They are so cool. They are really too cool standing here. I want to be a personal guard too, but they are so capable. I heard that they're judo champions and are especially accurate at shooting guns. Alright, stop talking rubbish. They're only there for a few days and will leave after that. Not many people are focusing on this and nobody is disturbing you guys anymore. They will leave after that. Huh, why? I think it's rather nice this way. Yu Minmin speechlessly thought that this child's thinking was really very simple. Chapter 418. Going to school to continue my studies. At GU Industries Group Corporation. Qin Hao said to Gu Jingze, we don't know whether it's because of illness or something else, but Miss Mo went in and out of the public eye very inconspicuously. She kept a very low profile and nobody knows who she is dating. However, this hospital is a famous maternity hospital. Not many come here to seek treatment for illnesses. The majority of the patients go there for their pregnancy. Gu Jingze was deep in thought when his phone rang. It was Lin Che, so he waved his hand and went to pick up the phone. Lin Che said, the company has arranged for me to go to school for a while. Sigh. Does this mean you have to stay in school? That's exactly what that means. Lin Che also felt very helpless. She felt that the competition was so big that she was constantly on her toes. However, wasn't life just like that too? Gu Jingze quickly went back to help arrange things for her. Seeing the maids pack up, Gu Jingze said, if you don't feel like going, you don't have to go. Lin Che said, never mind. I will continue my studies. There are definitely quite a number of high-leveled actors going too. I'd better go. I just feel that it's a bit troublesome. With so many people together, it's going to be bothersome. If you want to hone your acting skills, you can ask Jingyu to help you find someone to coach you. It's alright. Although I feel that it's a bit troublesome with so many people, I won't know what else I'll do if I don't continue competing. I won't be Lin Che if I really stop working and stay at home. So I'd better go. Gu Jingze heard this, looked deeply at her, lowered his head, and pulled her into his embrace. His sexy skin pressed against her cheeks, making her instantly feel the thick muscles underneath his shirt massaging her. It was so sexy and so soothing. Lin Che leaned on him and did not move for a long time. She only felt herself hanging against his perfect body and didn't want to be put down. However, they had to face reality and she still needed to pack her things. She was going to leave this man tomorrow and go back to school. Gu Jingze let the maids help her pack her luggage. When they were leaving, the maids pushed the luggage out while Gu Jingze nagged from behind, "Remember to call me if there are any problems." Yeah, I know. Don't be stubborn. Okay. Gu Jingze looked at Lin Che. He couldn't bear for her to leave, but he still nodded and let her get into the car. Lin Che watched Gu Jingze get further and further away. She also couldn't bear to leave him, feeling as if she had become too reliant on Gu Jingze recently. Now, she suddenly didn't feel safe leaving him. There were already many people gathered at the school entrance. Lin Che could see many of Qin Wanwan's fans from a distance. They held up signboards that already had the word, "Goddess," on them. Lin Che's fans were also not inferior. They wrote, "A woman who breaks all rules of a goddess," or something similar. It was obvious that they were directly challenging Qin Wanwan's fans. The training class began that day. Besides Qin Wanwan and Lin Che who were attracting all the attention, there were still many other celebrities participating. However, the most famous ones were still Lin Che and Qin Wanwan. Apart from them, there were still some veteran teachers also gaining a lot of attention. However, the teachers only came when it was time for lessons. Thus, they were nowhere in sight at the moment. When Lin Che arrived and got out of the car, she was tightly surrounded. Lin Che smiled and acknowledged the people, overhearing that Qin Wanwan arrived a long time ago. Qin Wanwan really knew how to treat others well, so it was plausible that she would arrive early. The security guards protected Lin Che and guided her into the school. Inside was the drama school. This was Lin Che's university and she had been here before. Many students from here already became famous stars, so when everybody saw celebrities here, they weren't as crazy as those people outside. They only stared and looked on enviously from a distance. Lin Che graduated from our school. Yes, wasn't it announced long ago? But we have way too many graduates who became big shots. It isn't such a big deal. But there are really so many fans outside. If only I can be like that in the future too. When Lin Che was in school, she wasn't famous at all. She's much better looking now. Now that I look at her, I wonder how she became so pretty. She didn't really go for plastic surgery, did she? A person would have some poise after becoming famous. They would be different from an ordinary person on the street. Everybody was talking among themselves. Some who liked Qin Wanwan more said, "Qin Wanwan is even better. She's so hardworking that she came here an hour early. Yes, she relies on her own effort and is very representative of herself. She's also a very good actress. Anyway, I like Qin Wanwan more. I think she has much fewer rumors. Lin Che has too many rumors. If it's not an internal conflict, it's some dispute." But no matter what, the sudden presence of these celebrities here for training really made the drama school, which was already filled with beauties, instantly more fired up. The dormitory was for 4 people. Inside were 2 female celebrities. Lin Che had met one of them before, named Wei Wei. The second one whom Lin Che had not seen before introduced herself at Zhaoqing. The 2 of them quickly pulled Lin Che in and took a photo together. They then said that there was still one more person, Qin Wanwan. Apparently, it was Qin Wanwan who volunteered and said that she wanted to be in the same room as Lin Che. Lin Che shrugged her shoulders, not really wanting to be with Qin Wanwan. It was probably because Yu Minmin wasn't too fond of her, so it influenced her to not like Qin Wanwan too. Another reason was also because she was being compared to Qin Wanwan so much that it made Lin Che annoyed. In any case, she really didn't think that Qin Wanwan was as good as she thought in the beginning. She only wanted to be separated from her a little instead of always being placed together. It was best to stay in one's own lane and mind one's own business. However, she was helpless. Qin Wanwan was actually so initiative. Not long after, Qin Wanwan really came and specially brought some clothes to Lin Che. "Lin Che, you see, I brought some clothes for you. We must wear the same clothes when we gather with the crew later on, okay?" Lin Che looked at Qin Wanwan and quickly said, "Oh, thanks, Wanwan. Don't mention it. We're friends. Qin Wanwan put an arm around Lin Che's shoulder and walked out with her side by side. But once they were outside, they were notified that they were going to start with military training. Everyone was stunned until the teacher said, "I know you are all celebrities and your skin is important. We'll mostly be indoors, so don't worry." Everybody then heaved a sigh of relief. They needed to exercise and maintain their figures anyway, so they believed that military training shouldn't be a problem to them either. But they looked at Lin Che and Qin Wanwan at the front and couldn't help but compare them. They thought that Qin Wanwan was really thinner than Lin Che. It was because Qin Wanwan didn't eat much and she mostly only ate vegetables. She maintained her body particularly well. The line of people walked past the school noisily, still attracting a lot of attention from others. Chapter 419. Someone said she drugged Qin Wanwan. Qin Wanwan was always with Lin Che. She was almost like a shadow and it really surprised others. It seemed like the two of them had a pretty good relationship and it wasn't like what outsiders said. Outsiders said that they claimed to be friends but weren't actually on good terms. Weren't they together daily now? Reporters also tried their best to dispel the rumors and said that the two of them got along very well. Although they were in the same company, their rivalry did not affect their friendship. When they returned to the dormitory, Lin Che relaxed in her area and played on her phone. But after a while, Qin Wanwan began coughing. Lin Che looked up and Qin Wanwan said, "Oh no, I only just got here and I caught a cold. We still have military training." Lin Che went over to take a look. "No way. How about I get you some medicine? Don't participate if you're not fit for military training. You should take a day off if you're sick." "I can only do so. Sorry to trouble you, Lin Che." Qin Wanwan got sick when she only just came. Lin Che could only look after her. After all, they had been together all this while. It wouldn't be good to not look after her when she was sick. Lin Che ran between the medical office and the dormitory to get medicine and other necessities for Qin Wanwan. Everybody came in to check up on them and even said to Lin Che, "It must be hard on you. Seriously, Qin Wanwan's body is too weak. She got sick when she just got here." Lin Che said, "Yes. Her cold seems very serious. It looks like she can only ask the teacher to leave. Please help her to do so." The teacher didn't dare to let Qin Wanwan simply leave like that in case something happened. Qin Wanwan's fans would gobble them up. The classmates thought that it was indeed nice to skip military training just because one was famous. However, the teacher dared not say anything. Lin Che then stayed in the dormitory with Qin Wanwan for the entire day and didn't leave. Qin Wanwan was extremely apologetic towards Lin Che. She looked at Lin Che and said, "Sorry to trouble you. It must be tough." Lin Che said, "It's all right. Nobody wants to be sick either." But just then, Qin Wanwan's body suddenly convulsed. Lin Che froze. She was frightened. She quickly ran out and called for the doctor. Everyone immediately knew about Qin Wanwan and also quickly came over. The doctor helped Qin Wanwan regain control and after examining her, it was discovered that some other drug was injected into Qin Wanwan's medicine. This drug was powerful enough to deform a person's skin. It could disfigure a person. Everyone was shocked. Qin Wanwan's manager came over very soon. Seeing that it was Lin Che, the manager scoffed coldly and unceremoniously. Then, he said to Qin Wanwan, "What are you doing, Wanwan? How could you let Lin Che take care of you?" Lin Che heard this as she stood there. She looked at the manager. "What are you implying?" The manager simply said, "Don't you know what this means? A drug that can disfigure Wanwan. How can this be a coincidence? It could be any other drug, but it had to be one that could disfigure a person. Why, do you want to ruin our Wanwan's career? Is it because you were aggravated that Wanwan joined our company? So you had to do this?" Lin Che laughed coldly. "What evidence do you have to prove that I was behind this? The medicine was dispensed by the hospital. What does it have to do with me?" Qin Wanwan also quickly said, "Yes, Sister Lin. It has nothing to do with Lin Che. She was only being kind by taking care of me." Her manager said, "Well, our Wanwan is too kind-hearted. You're still speaking up for Lin Che." The manager then continued, "So tell me, Wanwan, who helped take the medicine for you?" Qin Wanwan looked up and glanced alarmingly at Lin Che. She said softly, "Lin Che, but I made her help me take it." Then isn't that it? How long did Lin Che take to get the medicine? Qin Wanwan said, about 15 minutes. Ha, it's such a short distance and you took 15 minutes. What did you do in that time frame, Lin Che? Lin Che retorted, can't I go to the restroom halfway? The restroom was on the way so I decided to go. Is that so wrong? The manager said, what a coincidence. It's so coincidental that there's nothing left to say about you. Qin Wanwan quickly said, enough, Sister Lin. Don't say any more. Perhaps it's really just a coincidence. She immediately replied, how can it be such a coincidence? This time, the dosage was not enough so your body flushed it out. If she actually succeeded, your skin would have changed and become disfigured. Wouldn't your career be over? Lin Che looked at the two of them echo each other. Everybody also started to look at Lin Che with suspicion. Qin Wanwan looked at Lin Che, don't take this to heart. I don't think it was you, really. Lin Che scoffed, it isn't my doing in the first place. Sister Lin, you're in the same company as me and it's good that we can compete with each other. However, if you want to push the blame onto me, I'll tell you that it's impossible. You fine, I'll definitely tell the media. I'll also report it to the law and have this matter investigated. I'll make everyone see your true colors. Humph. They dispersed on a bad note. Qin Wanwan was still there, but the manager made people keep watch on Lin Che, telling them not to let Lin Che get close to Qin Wanwan. The following day, the news came out in the media saying that Lin Che was suspected of attempting to drug and disfigure Qin Wanwan in the dormitory but was caught. Netizens quarreled till no end. Some said that Lin Che couldn't possibly do that because she was so nice. Some said that she really had no taste. Qin Wanwan was now in Lin Che's company and they were competing for the top newcomer position and resources. Their relationship definitely wouldn't be great. Immediately, there was insider information saying that Qin Wanwan was originally participating in the training at first. She already talked about it a few weeks prior. Of course, once Qin Wanwan was in the same company as Lin Che also immediately said that she wanted to participate in the training. The rivalry was way too obvious. There was more information from the drama school, saying that Lin Che was accused of drugging Qin Wanwan at that time, but Qin Wanwan still spoke up for Lin Che. In the beginning, Qin Wanwan and Lin Che seemed to be good friends. But this matter suddenly occurred and it was indeed unbelievable. However, they could see that Qin Wanwan was a good person. She kept believing that Lin Che didn't do such a thing and it was the manager who wasn't willing to let Lin Che off. The manager even wanted to take Lin Che to court. At this point, some fans online couldn't sit still any longer. They said that they didn't think Lin Che would be such a person, but if this was true, they didn't want to be Lin Che's fans anymore. The insults online never ceased. In the dormitory, everyone looked at Lin Che a certain way and didn't dare to get close to her. Qin Wanwan was still ill but she insisted on staying in the dorm instead of backing out of the training. Her ill state gained everybody's pity and adoration. She looked at Lin Che and even said, Lin Che, I'm really sorry. I didn't expect it to be like this. Lin Che looked at her coldly, it's all right. The entertainment circle is just like that. Wasn't it just like that? It was hypocritical and driven by personal gains. Many friends could turn on their enemies. Furthermore, they weren't even friends yet. They only knew each other. Qin Wanwan still wanted to say something, but Lin Che already got up and walked out. Everybody watched Lin Che leave and flocked around Qin Wanwan to comfort her. Chapter 420. Lin Che was nominated for an incredible award. Sister Wanwan, forget it. Since she's not interested, don't bother with her, Wei Wei said. Exactly. Sister Wanwan, you're so generous that you even forgave her. Not only is she ungrateful, she still treats you this way, Zhao Qing chimed in. Seriously, she always appears so nice on TV. She's nice to her fans and she's interesting, but who knew that she was such a person underneath all that, Zhao Qing said. Wei Wei said, everything on TV is fake. You'll know when you observe from the side. This was probably the first time Lin Che was called into question like that. Everyone scolded her non-stop and were all pointing fingers at her. When Lin Che went out, she called Gu Jingze. Gu Jingze said, if you're feeling tired, just come back. Leave this matter to me. Lin Che held onto her phone. When she heard Gu Jingze's voice, she felt sour. She naturally didn't feel good to be insulted. Lin Che also knew that she always had a fragile heart and was very sensitive. However, she had been in the entertainment circle for such a long time and was already familiar with it. It was not a big deal now. Lin Che said, "No need. I'm an undefeatable cockroach. I'm already much better than I used to be. I can still handle this matter. Furthermore, I need to prove my innocence." Gu Jingze said, "All right then. I told you not to be stubborn, you understand." "I'm not being stubborn, don't worry, I can still handle it." However, it was not long before there was another news demanding Lin Che to apologize to Qin Wanwan. If she did not, they would never forgive Lin Che. This topic was pushed all the way to the front. Insults about Lin Che instantly became even more endless. Although Yu Minmin was very busy, she still quickly called up Lin Che. She had only just taken time off and such an incident already happened to Lin Che. It really worried her a lot. Yu Minmin said, "I think I'd better handle this matter. Don't worry about it anymore." Lin Che said, "Aren't you busy preparing for your wedding? What are you going to handle? Your plate is already full too. Although I can't always be there personally, I am still your manager. When something happens to you, I also take a huge responsibility. Okay, don't care about this anymore. Just leave it to me." Yu Minmin and sister Lin worked in the same company for many years. She arrived at the company, saw sister Lin, smiled and said, "I just left and you're hatching out wicked ideas for me." Sister Lin looked at Yu Minmin and was very surprised. Is Madam President using her authority to suppress others? How can I do that in the company? I'm still the same Yu Minmin. Oh, then I'm relieved. But Minmin, you've always been below me all these years. It wasn't easy for you to finally have one like Lin Che, but it turns out that she's always causing trouble for you. It must be hard for you. Lin Che was very good initially and could have made you suppress me. It's too bad that I managed to pull Wanwan over now. It's a pity that you just climbed up to this position. However, there is still hope for you to win me over in the future." Yu Minmin smiled, "Yes, I will work hard. Don't go overboard with the matter this time." No, don't worry. We're all in the same company. I'll be gentler to you and I'm only demanding an apology from Lin Che. And also for her to back out of this year's Entertainment Circle Awards. Seriously, the Entertainment Circle Awards was just around the corner. No wonder she was in a hurry to go on the offense. Initially, Lin Che's role in Gu Jingze's film gave them a lot of hope that they could be number one. To make her back out now, how could she? Sure enough, the next day, some people said that they hoped Qin Wanwan could make the company fire Lin Che. Otherwise, who knew how Lin Che would bully Qin Wanwan if they were in the same company in the future? After all, Lin Che was groomed by the company itself while Qin Wanwan was not. Now that the company did not intervene in this matter, they were simply taking sides with Lin Che. Since they let Qin Wanwan join them, it was ridiculous to not treat her well. The company also only wanted the two of them to compete with each other. They didn't expect such a thing to happen. The company quickly called Lin Che and said to her, "Why don't you just apologize to Wanwan? This apology is not a big deal." Lin Che simply said, "That's not going to happen." Then they're requesting you to back out of this year's awards. If you don't say something, you'll really be disqualified by the awards judges. Wouldn't that be a disaster? Lin Che heard this and gritted her teeth. The awards are indeed important to me. But what's more important is my innocence. I'll never admit to a fault that isn't mine. The company was very angry, but at the same time, it was helpless. After all, Lin Che was an artist who was reaping in profits for them. They didn't want to make things ugly and force her to leave. Yu Minmin met up with Lin Che. Inside, she said to Lin Che, "Don't be too upset. Live and let live. It doesn't matter if Qin Wanwan takes the awards this time. We actually still have a chance to counterattack." Lin Che asked, "What chance?" "Your movie has been submitted for this year's Gold Medal Award. As for Best Female Lead, would you still care about that award if you can be nominated for this?" "What? Best Female Lead? But can I even be nominated?" The Gold Medal Award was the entire nation's most important, most famous, and most powerful awards show. It was held once a year and plenty of actors competed over decades just to get this award. That was the seal on a movie. However, this was Lin Che's first time filming in a movie and as a female lead. Furthermore, the movie was not released yet. Yu Minmin said, "It's only based on the submission of the review and we still don't know if we'll be nominated. But I believe in your capabilities. You performed very well this time and the director was full of praise for you. He thought that your acting skills improved a lot. You must believe in your skills. You definitely have a chance to be nominated." Lin Che nodded profusely. Although the gold medal award seemed so out of reach to her, she felt a lot more hopeful. Compared to the gold medal award, an entertainment circle award given out by its own circle was indeed not as important. The influential power was also obvious. Yu Minmin said, "Okay, just relax about everything. Enjoy your class." After the military training ended, the first class was held in a classroom in the drama school. Qin Wanwan first reached the place. Everyone had already heard that Qin Wanwan was nominated for this year's award. There was a list of artists and as long as they were famous, they were in. Whether they acted, sang, hosted, did comedy or were sportsmen, they could all be nominated. Thus, the competition was also rather huge. However, everyone all thought that the chances of Lin Che being included would be greater. The grand prize would go to the person with the highest popularity and future for growth. The rankings of the 4 previous newcomers were calculated from the rankings of the artists after the award. At that time, Lin Che, Qin Wanwan and the rest were all newcomers and were chosen. They were ranked in the middle and some big shots were behind them. Thus, they were named the 4 blossoming newcomers.